Send it to me.
Okay, that's better. If you will join me in lighting the chalice, the words are in your order of service. We light the beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Low Country. I thank you for making your time to be here today. Those of you who have been longtime members, you know the love, care, and compassion that's in this place. And I'd also ask that those of you who are guests and visitors would keep your heart open, because you'll find that love and compassion and care for you as well, too. One of the things I'd like to do before I go any further is ask if there are any of you who are first or second-time visitors that would be willing to stand where you are and just give us your name and tell us a little bit about where you're from. So if you would, that would be helpful. David, I don't know that I can make it any different. Yes or no? We'll work with it. Thank you for your patience. Are there, in this far corner over here, this far aisle over here, are there any first or second time visitors who would be willing to stand and share your name? In the center, any first? Thank you.
Yeah, we're Randy and Kathy Zipser. We live in Boston now, but we were from southern Delaware most recently.
Welcome. I hope you're able to make your way back. Any others in the center section? Notice I said the center, not the center section. It's the center. On my far left, you're right. Any? Yes, ma'am, if you would, please.
Marcy Tressel, and I've been on Hilton Head 52 years.
So once every half century, it's okay to come. Okay, so just think about that. Welcome, glad you could be here today. There's a number of announcements that I want to be able to bring to your attention. First of all, Cheryl Canick, thank you for your version of the one-armed man up here lighting the chalice. We know that the fugitive is actually here. Let's see. Oh, Matt Nakaya, his concert this past Friday night was astounding. Those of you that are here will just nod. The rest of you missed it. So keep an eye out coming back. I've also been asked to announce that beginning tomorrow at 9 o'clock, the painting starts in our lobby. So you've either been warned or welcomed. We're not sure yet. But one of the things that I'd like to ask is, after our talk back is over, I've been asked to ask if some of you could linger a little bit and help move some of the loose furniture out of there so it can be painted. And so just kind of look at your calendar and see whether you can stay for about another half hour after the talk back, which reminds me, those of you who are guests and visitors, one of the things that we do every Sunday is we gather back here after about a 15-minute break, and we consider the messages that the speaker that was given. This time, Pat Jobe, of course, one of the longtime friends of this community, will be speaking, and we'll be anxious to hear what he might have to say and how you may wish to ask him questions and to continue to learn more from us. Those of you that are guests, that's the way that you can learn best what the nature and what the culture of this community is. And so I encourage you to stay just to watch and listen. I have one other announcement, and so if you would please pay close attention to this. Recently, I have been in contact with Kathy Quirk and her family. For those of you that do not know Kathy, she's a longtime member of this congregation and has been diagnosed with a very progressive cancer. Yesterday, I had a conversation with her son, Matt, who asked me to bring a message to Kathy's spiritual community, which she loves so very much. A few days ago, Kathy was able to be brought home. She intends to die in her beloved house in Moss Creek. This next part of this announcement is very important. Kathy has very little energy left. And her son wishes us to know that she wishes to invest that energy with her family only in the days and the hours ahead. The family asks that you send out loving energy to Kathy spiritually, but in person, hold it to yourself. Flowers now are actually one more thing to be cared for, and the family only wants to take care of Kathy. Understanding the family only wants to take care of her and to nurture her. There will be time also for cards later, Matt shared with me. The most loving gift we can bring for her and her family is her privacy, and to honor her with your thoughts and with the energy that you send out to the universe. Matt also entrusted me with this message to all of us, and he thanks you, and I thank you for your enormous heart in her journey. Thank you. Pat, opening words. This is my good friend, Pat Jobe, who always moves me, and we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
I do have opening words, but before I share them, I want to share my words of welcome for Randy and Kathy. We're so glad you're here. Please come back. This is a wonderful group of people, and there are still a few empty seats. So we're so grateful to the two of you for filling them. And Marcy, Charlie's joke about once every half century was totally inappropriate. Please do not wait another 50 years to come back. Also, I want to share a joy with you all. 3 Sundays ago, I was able to participate in an interracial worship service in my home county of Rutherford. We're now doing this every other 6 months. Once in January, once in July. We gather about 14 congregations across our little rural county. And this last service was attended by 425 people. We had an awesome interracial choir who rocked the house. There's now a huge debate going on in the planning committee about whether we're ever going to do any white music. People love rocking the house with the black music, and they're just really conflicted over how to move forward. Our opening words come from Brene Brown. How many of you know Brene Brown? Okay, great. If you don't yet know Brene Brown, please go to TED.com and listen to her TED Talks. I think she has 2 up. She may have 3. These are her words. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and belonging and joy, the experiences that make us most vulnerable. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of light.
Thank you, Pat. And now, if you would, please take your hymnals into your hands. Open, if you will, to hymn number 101, and may we stand and sing together, Abide with Me.
Still with me. This is the time for sustaining our community. We will pass the basket, and if you are a visitor first or second time, please let the basket pass, as your presence here is our gift. Thank you. It's heavy. Thank you for your generosity. And another thing we do every week, we collect non-perishable food items for the Sandalwood Food Pantry or the Bluffton Self-Help. And if you have brought something to share with the food pantries, please leave them in the back of the sanctuary on the table or under the table if there's no room on top. And they will be distributed to those two food pantries. Thank you.
Good morning. At this point in the service, we take the time to share our joys and our concerns. Our joys because by sharing them, it enhances them, we believe, and by sharing our concerns, it makes them easier to bear. We ask that you make no announcements or political statements during this time. If you have something to share, please come forward, take a stone from the basket, give us your name, what you'd like to share, and then put the stone into the carom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Betsy with news from our care committee. Kathy Zeiser, who's at home with her husband Bud as they go through the end-of-life journey for Bud. Her daughter and her son-in-law are with them. Kathy says, please let everyone know at UUCL how much I appreciate the beautiful cards with their words of love and support. When I joined UUCL, I never expected to be surrounded by so many caring and loving people. Please thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. Later she writes, another dinner showed up at my door on Valentine's Day. Better than a dozen roses. Please thank UUCL. I am so blessed to have such wonderful friends and family. Please give my love to everyone. As Bud's journey during this in-between time continues, I'll share words from Kathy as she gives me permission. Thank you.
Joanne. I wanted to, two things. I want to celebrate my daughter's 50th birthday. I find it very hard to believe that she could possibly be 50. I was just 19, I was just having her, and now she's grown up. And the other thing is, I'd like to thank everyone who came out Friday night in support and who worked at the show. It was a great success, and the reason I do it is because I get so much pleasure out of watching all of you enjoy the music that I choose. So it's not selfish.
Hello, it's me again.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I want you to, if you could, find it in your hearts to say again some prayers for my shoulders, for the pain I keep suffering. This one's getting worse. I can't go like that without adding considerable pain, so if you could hopefully pray it away. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Libby Houlihan. I come up to the microphone on a slightly different note. I want to express appreciation. This week, I will be at a book discussion with Betsy and Mike. And we will be discussing a book called In Between. You heard Betsy just use that phrase, in between. Betsy recommended this book, and she will be facilitating the discussion. This is a memoir by a woman who is a hospice nurse. And the word hospice comes up so many times in this community. And we are so fortunate to have a pastor who is a hospice pastor. Mm-hmm. This memoir includes her years when she was a hospice nurse in her 20s. And while we take memoirs with a grain of salt, it is a collection of extraordinary in-between stories that just filled me with awe and gratitude that we have someone who could recommend a book that a lot of us might not want to read because it's about the end of life. And yet, I'm so glad I read it. I'm so glad we have Charlie. A lot of us have familiar experience with hospice, either in a facility or at home. And yet, this filled my mind, my heart, and my soul as really nothing else has. And I'm looking forward to Wednesday. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dave Rosenberg. This is probably inappropriate, but ever since I learned about this tradition with the Cairn, I've wanted to say everybody must get stoned. The reason I'm up here is to share a joy, which is that my father, Jerome Buddy Rosenberg, will be celebrating his 100th birthday next weekend. He's still out there making trouble. He goes to a restaurant and he will go table to table and talk to everybody as if they're his best friend, which can be excruciating. But it is amazing to have a living, active, 100-year-old father.
so bear with me, but I just want to get
Step up to the mic.
and talk about the power of healing in pets and touch. I have a therapy dog, and our group of teams go into Fraser Skilled Nursing Home. And last week, I took my dog, Piper, and took Florence's hand. Florence's head goes over, she can't sit up straight, she's never spoken. Put her hand on Piper. She moved her fingers around, eye contacted me, and mouthed, "Thank you," with a smile on her face.
Okay, if you would turn in your hymnals back to affirmation number 442. 442. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. 2 stones for the joys and concerns those we remain in our heart. Okay. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, for seekers of new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this fall as a homecoming, who have found here your room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Wherever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome.
Pat Jobe, if you would please come on up. We have some, we're anxious to hear from. Is there something I'm missing? I'm going to go sit back down.
You have an
until-
intro, Charlie.
Okay, thank you.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family down the street, through the courtesy of Fred to beat. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba tea time, a dabba tea time, we'll have a gay old time. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Someday, maybe Fred will win the fight, and that cat will stay out for the night. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba do time, a dabba do time, we'll have a gay old time. We'll have a gay old time.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that. I've written a song, and I have friends who say that songwriters should not have to explain their songs. But I'm a student of John Prine, and he was notorious for talking about his songs before he sang them. So in the spirit of John Prine, I ask you to listen very carefully to the second verse of this song, because it talks about your legacy fund. And it alludes to a sermon that Dick Hood delivered here several weeks ago, where he talked about Theodore Parker. And he talked about the fact that most of us can't remember who Theodore Parker was. But Dick said every one of us benefits from Theodore Parker's life because he was one of the trailblazers of Unitarianism. He was one of the people who did the work, who offered the leadership that has resulted in our being here this morning. And you all have created a legacy fund here in this congregation. And I told Clay I was going to beg shamelessly that you support that legacy fund. Because if things go as we hope they will, 10 years from now, what is happening this morning will be happening again. And 20 years from now, and 30 years from now. I'm not going to push it past 30, but you get the picture. Your legacy fund is very important. And this song is called Snicker Bars and Old Guitars. And a lot of you know where the Snicker bar illusion comes from. Charlie Tyler walks into gas stations and convenience stores and grocery stores, and he will often buy a Snickers bar for the clerk behind the counter. And he's inspired me to do the same thing. So this is a wild kind of song. Snicker bars and old guitars, riding with the wind. We prayed for peace 1,000 times, but the guns just come on in. Nobody said it would be easy. Nobody said we would get by. We're still grateful for the air that we breathe. Charlie Tyler and I. Remember history and Theodore Parker. Dick Hood is calling us home. Think of all we would have missed if we weren't on Parker's list. We'd have to live through all this mess all alone. Nobody said it would be easy. Nobody said we would get by. But we're still grateful for the air that we breathe. Old Dick Hood and I. And Neil Jones is crying out for justice. Like a wilderness voice, he cries. He knows without good trouble and change, lots more innocents will die. Nobody said it would be easy. Nobody said we would get by. But we're still grateful for the air that we breathe. Dr. Jones and I. And the low country you still gather. Light the chalice, feel some hope, and sing. We listen to the golden and stories, and hear John Shepherd make those ivories ring. And David and Sarah keeps the lights on, and electric lights aren't the only lights he brings. And the low country is a launch pad, so we can rise up on eagle's wings. Nobody said it would be easy, and nobody said we would get by. But we're still grateful for the air that we breathe. the low country yous and I. You all are so kind. You're so kind. We even got Dr. Jones to his feet. You all heard me say this before, but he hadn't heard it in a long time. Neil Jones is unquestionably the most beautiful UU minister in the state of South Carolina. Charlie Tyler's pretty too, but he can't hold a camera for Neil. Some of you are mystified by the sermon title, and it's clearly lighthearted intentions. I don't think we can be who we hope to be as Unitarian Universalists if we don't have light hearts. Without hearts that carry the lights of love and justice and peace and freedom and humor into a world that is hungry for those things. Many people think the work that lies before us is deadly serious. And unless we are ready to grit our teeth and strain our backs in serious efforts, we are doomed to failure. I got bad news. We're going to fail. Every now and then. But we are also going to succeed every now and then. Fred Flintstone, on the other hand, almost never succeeds. My own life has been a series of snafus, failures, mishaps, stubbed toes, and falling flat on my face. You have heard me say many times that I was fired from 4 jobs, went broke in business 3 times, and am divorced twice. I'm a poster boy for stepping on rakes and slapping myself in the face as the handle comes flying up. We were packing to move from Greenville back to Forest City, North Carolina, and I did it twice in the same day. I stepped on a rake and slapped myself in the face with the handle twice in the same day. Is there any doubt as to why I love Fred Flintstone? When the cartoon first premiered on national television, Jackie Gleason seriously considered suing the producers for very closely mirroring Gleason's hit, The Honeymooners. But Gleason decided not to sue because he didn't want to be associated with such a loser. Right? Fred Flintstone is the loser's loser. No matter what he sets out to do, it almost always ends in disaster. His ego, his anger, his rage, his assumptions, his pride, his scheming, and outsized ambitions always turn to dust in his hands. Speaking of outsized ambitions, Phyllis, I've suspended my campaign for president this year. We'll talk again in 4 more years, okay? I know exactly how it feels to be Fred Flintstone. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It reminds me of Byron Katie's wisdom. She says that when somebody tells her, "You're stupid," she often says, "Well, I've thought so myself a time or two." Maybe my t-shirt could read, "If you want to call me stupid, get in line." I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I know some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Probably most of you know exactly what I'm talking about. We always remember our successes less than we remember our failures. We know the list. We remember mistakes, mishaps, accidents, other people's mistakes and mishaps. especially those people who are members of our own families. The list just goes on and on. An exhaustive list of mine would take hours to report. But I will tell you one that rings a bell in my life. My brother and I had a flat tire on Trade Street in Forest City when we were teenagers. And Trade Street is one of the main drags in Forest City. Sometimes 6 or 7 cars will go by in an hour. And we jacked up the car and we changed the tire. And then my brother said, "You better tighten the lugs." And I said, "No, you don't tighten the lugs while the thing's still in the air. You have to put it back on the ground, then tighten the lugs." Well, those of you who have any degree of mechanical acumen know that the wheel flew off of the car as soon as we started driving again and went down Trade Street ahead of us. He was my little brother. What did he know, right? I won the argument, but I lost the tire. That's one of my favorite stories. I like to tell that on myself, just in case anybody gets to thinking I've got a lick of sense. I also got kicked out of the Boy Scouts. How does anybody get kicked out of the Boy Scouts? And I was a terrible baseball player as a little kid. Why bring it up? Why bring it up here in Bluffton this morning? Why tell it and evoke Fred Flintstone? I tell it because I have succeeded in spite of being an idiot myself. Irma Bombeck once sat and listened to herself being introduced to a group of college students. And the introducer was going to great lengths to articulate her successes, her numbers of books sold, the numbers of newspapers that carried her column, the numbers of awards she had won. When she got to the podium, she talked about the numbers of jobs she had been fired from, the numbers of times she had failed at projects, and purely and simply had been the Fred Flintstone of her own life. She wanted to make it clear to those students that nobody climbs the ladder of success without falling off a time or two. It's just what happens. And again, why is this important? It is important because it applies to this congregation. I've been coming down here for 14 years, and I can tell you it has not all been peaches and cream. Your leadership, your membership, your projects and programs and Sunday morning services have not all been the clouds parting and a shaft of light coming down to illuminate what you're trying to do. So what? We are still here. I kind of miss Ron Titus telling me what a good crowd we drew this morning. He always loved it when we had a good crowd. We once hired a church administrator at the Greenville Fellowship. During the interview process, I asked one of the candidates for the job how she handled unreasonable expectations. And the president of the congregation was in the interview too, and he started laughing. And I asked him what he thought was so damn funny. He said, "You're asking her how to handle unreasonable expectations because you want to know how to handle unreasonable expectations." And it was true. What she did say in answer to that question was that she just takes people where they are and goes from there. That's a pretty good way to live in a congregation and not foul things up too badly. Perfection is an unreasonable expectation. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to fail in many of the things that we attempt to do, and we're going to go on and do them anyway. It would have been wonderful if Fred Flintstone had learned a little humility. But barring that, well, it would have been wonderful if I could learn some humility, but I've just discovered I'm no good at it, so I go on. This congregation has been so good to me. and Charlie and Neil Jones and Dick Hood and your other speakers. You treat us like gold, and thank you most kindly, especially for how you treat Ann Harrison and David and Sarah and John Shepherd. This is a great and glorious place full of love and joy and peace and freedom. You first-time visitors, come back. Come back. We're going to want to love on you some more. We're going to love on you this morning, but we want you to come back so we can love on you some more. But it is not perfect. And as Fred Flintstone illustrated so well, we occasionally need to forgive each other and ourselves. Wilma always forgave Fred. And if you have an auditory memory, you can probably hear her saying, "Oh, Fred," as she put her arms around her arrogant, bull-headed, self-referencing, egotistical husband and offered him the forgiveness of her loving arms. She probably should have divorced him. But it was the early 60s and divorce was not quite as popular back then. I want to make one more note and then I promise I'll sit down. This congregation graced me 4 months ago with a couple that had come here from a cult. Are y'all here this morning? You know what I'm talking about? People who left the cult and found the UU of the Low Country. Well, it doesn't matter. They'll be back. Marcy, they will be back. They escaped the cult and they found acceptance and tolerance, maybe even Wilma Flintstone's forgiveness here, and they called it rich and deep and meaningful. That's what goes on here. That's what goes on here. There is a spiritual life that is rich and deep and meaningful. I have repeated those words many times in the ensuing 4 months to the 2 congregations I work with in North Carolina and my home church in Spartanburg. Unitarian Universalism, and especially the version of it that is practiced here in Bluffton, is rich and deep and meaningful. Thank you for listening to a guy who has been just about as insufferably arrogant and self-referencing and egomaniacal as Fred Flintstone. I would be more humble, but I'm just no good at it. Where is Charlie Tyler? There you are. There you are. When I was here, not last time, but maybe a year ago, Charlie and I walked across the parking lot together. When we got to my car, he said, "Stay broken, brother." And I have. That is a challenge that makes total sense to me. Stay broken. I am broken in places that I hope I show you there is something so much larger than us that is at work to affirm love and kindness and forgiveness, generosity, compassion, and openness. I will stay broken, no doubt about it. But Charlie, you need to know that encouraging me to do so is one of the most precious gifts I have ever received. Oh.
So to celebrate Pat's return, most of you can't see, but Mike and Betsy can. I'm wearing my Flintstone socks today. There's Fred and Barney on there. And the beautiful thing, as he said, is, I mean, Wilma always like, oh, Fred, and she loves him, and he tries, just like Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners with Ralph Cramden. He tries to better himself, and he keeps failing because of his ego and his loud voice and so forth, but he still keeps trying to do the right thing. Those of you that know Pat, in the past, he's talked a lot about the breath. So are there any meditators in this room here? Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. Awesome. So I mentioned this song to Pat, and he said, yes, he loves the author of this song, and this is appropriate. So in your announcements, in your order of service, you will see the main verse here, that refrain starts the song and ends the song. It changes up a little bit in the middle, so just let us take that, but we'll kind of give you the nod. But this is how that part goes. Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's try it one more time with me. Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Now joined as if to pray. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. So we'll ask you, and at the end, there's a bunch of breathe in and breathes outs, and if you want to close your eyes, if you want to use this to meditate, go for it. Ready? Here we go. Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. John.
Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth. Eyes lifted to the light, to the light.
Hands, branches touching the rain.
Everybody breathe in.
Breathe in, breathe out. And rising like the spark of rain. Breathe in, breathe out.
And John.
Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth. Eyes lifted to the light, to the light.
Now everybody.
Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out.
Say that again.
Breathe in, hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out.
Now breathe in.
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in,
Nice job, everybody.
So I love Pat Jobe, and you guys love Pat Jobe, and you've just seen why we love Pat Jobe and why Pat Jobe loves us. Thank you so much for all that you've done, and ask that you would continue to bring your own brokenness in here. Because as someone once said, brokenness is how the light gets in. And Pat's analogy of lightheartedness is our brokenness is how the light gets out. And so I'd ask that we continue to hold that thought of our own brokenness, because we are. And I love that message. Only Pat Jobe could make Fred Flintstone apply to the 21st century. And I noted the irony in the reference to 1962, but I think it was another probably eon before that he had this life. If you would please, closing remarks.
Ain't he just the sweetest tater to Pat? Our closing words are the same as our opening words, and the reason I'm repeating them is I really want some of you to seek out Brene Brown. Raise your hands again if you already know Brene, and leave them up for just a second. Look around at all the people who've been touched by Brene Brown. She really does beat a hen rootin'. Our closing words are hers. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love, belonging, and joy. The experiences that make us the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable. And did you notice just now that Charlie Tyler is very vulnerable? I know you did. Only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of light.
Please stand and join me in extinguishing our chalice. Words are in your order of service.
While we extinguish this flame, we shall carry on our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of humanity, and the fire of commitment, until we are together again.
Is that your song? Peter Mayer. Beautifully done.
I am broken. Thank you for accepting my brokenness.
Good job, kid. Good job.
It's a great song.
This will be 2 in March, Charlie Tyler.